Do we have one life's purpose? And what if we missed it? I realize this is cringe and I'm grossing myself out a little bit. No cap. Bet. I don't know the terms. I'm sorry. Unpopular opinion, but greetings from what has become shipping and receiving. It's your girl, Kelsey, rom-com author, comedian, podcaster, bestie. If this is your first time watching, I'm excited you're here because we're going to talk about something important, which is, do we have one life's calling? Do we have one life's purpose? And what if we missed it? If it's not your first time watching, please hit the like button. If you're listening on iTunes, take a screenshot of the app so that you can send it to a friend. This show is uplifting, inspiring. It's a comedy podcast. It's lighthearted, good time, fun. So let's talk about when your entire life is a crushing disappointment. Why are we talking about life's purpose, life's calling today? Well, I think I am not the only one who kind of woke up in their 30s and 40s and realized, like, this is not what your girl had planned. Me, personally, I was going to be a superstar. And so, again, I hope you're sitting down, but I'm not. I'm here in my dining room talking to a camera by myself. On a random Thursday afternoon. So I like to kind of hit on the things I feel like no one's really talking about. And even if you're in your late 20s, if you're a mom or if you are someone who life has you've been sort of sidetracked or blindsided and you did not end up where you thought you were going to end up. This is a normal thing. That's actually point number one. Haven't even gotten into it. We are just diving right in to the golden nuggets you can expect, which is everybody feels this way, I think. I mean, it's super rare. Like my husband is pretty much the only one. He happened to fall in love with software and, creating software, coding and all that stuff.
What a nerd alert.
20 plus years ago when it was new and emerging, and he got in on the front end of it, and he's still doing it today, and he still loves it today. Is very fulfilled, has never changed careers. That's not true. We did take a tiny hiatus when we moved to a tiny town in Arkansas and ran a marina on a lake, which you can read about in my novel called Things I Forgot About, the orange one behind me, which is loosely based on the small lake town we lived in Northwest Arkansas. But that was a year. He took like a gap year. But he's the exception. I mean, so many people, maybe it's specifically women, maybe it's Christian culture where there's a heavy emphasis when you're in youth group on like, what is God calling you to do? What is the calling in your life? For me, I'd like to take you back to little Kelsey. If God does hang out up there in the clouds and like pours specific ingredients, mixing together one life's purpose for a person, I was meant to be a Broadway performer. Straight up, no cap, bet. I don't know the terms.
Kelsey, are you admitting right now at 40 years old that you are just now realizing you're not going to be a music superstar? And yes, that is what I'm saying. And yes, that is mortifying. And I may delete this later, but I do want to explain myself. I always auditioned, got whatever role, was the star, throughout high school and college. And then I thought I was a big shot and thought I was going to be a pop star. And after college graduation, I did pursue a pop music career, had a hot pink piano, produced an album, put it out. But then we moved to that tiny town in Arkansas and my music career fell apart. Then we moved back to Oklahoma City and I got a real big girl job, and I had that job for a long time and eventually started my own business. And when I started back on YouTube and social media in 2015, so 10 years ago, I had this long-term vision that eventually I will sing again, which is what I did. I started adding comedy videos into the mix and then parody songs. And then while we lived in LA, I actually started doing sync music, which is writing songs for commercials. I had multiple tracks that we produced, booked a national commercial while we were out there. Of course, that was right before March 2020. So that commercial never saw the light of day. And eventually we moved home. And then you'll remember in 2021, Gigi and I worked together on turning her life story into a musical that had legitimate momentum. Like, I have had legitimate momentum. I have been a professional singer. I have been hired to sing, paid to perform, sung for 19,000 people at NBA games, and then with the musical, we had momentum. I thought, man, this is really it. I'm turning this entrepreneurial story into a musical. We met with producers. You know, we had a listening party. People rolled out in Nashville. People were excited about it. And then that crashed and burned too, as we talked about in episode 1. So it has been recent that I have had to just accept this is not going to happen. And, you know, you guys, all my followers online, just don't really care for music content that much. Anytime I post musical stuff, it's a dud. That, you know, the algorithm doesn't show it. Nobody likes, comments, shares. That's just the reality. And that's what I have right now. I can't go build a resume. I'm not going to leave my family to go do community theater at this moment. And so what I have is my online community, and my online community doesn't really want to hear me sing. And so, as embarrassing as this is, yes, at 40 years old, I am having to give up on this thing. But I don't think I'm alone in that, because everybody has different dreams. And I think sometimes it doesn't hit us until our 30s or 40s that, okay, this really is not going to happen for me.
I will say, you know, in Christian culture, my parents didn't know any better. It was like, well, you can be a worship pastor. Won't that be great?
Flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise.
But my voice, if I had to pick someone that I sound like at my best. Now, if you go look on the internet at all my old parody videos, rap songs, all that stuff, that's not really me singing at my best. I'm more like a Sutton Foster. If I had had training, I wonder, you know, I try not to wonder anymore, but for a long time, I wondered like what my life would have been like if my parents had known, if they had had some knowledge and had been, you know, coached on like, hey, this is what your crazy little personality is meant to do. Because I was way too much. You know, I was just like jazz hands as a human being from a very young age. And so, I mean, I know you're all shocked. I'm like Lucille Ball.
Might have had a meaty match.
I'm like a caricature of a human with my expressions and stuff. And so, you know, if someone had come along and said, hey, cuckoo, cuckoo, you're made for this stage and here's how we get you there. Now I'm on the other side of it. And I last year took my daughter to do some auditions, and she was in the the metro area homeschool choir here, and they had auditions for an honor choir. And, you know, I'm taking her to this audition. I am beside myself nervous. And she goes in there, you guys. She is 11 years old, and everyone else in there is a teenager. And I'm just like, you know, like I'm over on the side, and, you know, she can't see me having a full-on meltdown in the background. Thank goodness, she would have been mortified. But I'm like crying. I'm so proud of her. She's so tiny. Everyone else is so much bigger. And she's so like put together and confident and not, you know, freaking out like me. But then we have to have the conversations where I do have knowledge of the industry and I do know things. And I try to set her up for some realistic success. Like, yes, you absolutely can sing for a living. You can try to perform. You'll probably have to move out of Oklahoma City, and you will have 18 roommates in a, you know, cardboard box apartment. You will make very little money. You will be rejected for probably at least a decade, but you can do it. You can do it. Or you can teach music and you can stay here local. You could go into ministry. You could be a worship pastor, you know, all of the things. I'm trying to be realistic about it now that I'm on the other side, because I think a lot of us can look back and think, well, our parents didn't really know what they were doing across the board. But now as a parent, don't you sit there thinking, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Absolutely no idea what I am doing. Also, side note, it is really gross if you are in your 30s and 40s, if you're still talking about your childhood trauma.
No, hard pass.
I'm sorry. Unpopular opinion, but I was just talking with someone the other day, also 40 something, and, you know, just talking so much about all of the ways their parents messed them up. Okay. And the last 2 decades since then, since you moved out, like, guys, I think we have some hardship Olympics. Like, everybody wants to pile on about how hard their childhood was, or how big their trauma was, or all the things that they've gone through. And it's gross. If anybody, in case someone was waiting for someone to say it out loud, it's gross. If you're 22, for sure, you're still unpacking that. And I understand that grief goes at its own pace. People have to learn on their own and figure things out on their own. But I don't want to hear about your parents if you're past like 35 years old. Am I wrong? Leave a comment. Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Number one, many people feel this way. And maybe if you're watching this and you are young, still in your 20s, but you are already a young mom, or you were stuck with some circumstance you didn't want, some sort of grief, some sort of like caretaking, debt, stuff like that. And you are also feeling like, I missed it. I missed my opportunity. I missed my chance. This is not what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to go to college. I was supposed to get married. I was supposed to become a career woman. I was supposed to. That is such a common feeling. This all was sparked because a friend of mine sent me a message. She read things I should have said. And she was like, hey, I could not put it down. I loved it so much. And I really feel like this was your calling. And I was like, shut the front door. This is not, hello, have you met me? My calling is I'm meant to be on stage. Like I'm meant to be a star. And I realize this is cringe and I'm grossing myself out a little bit.
The smell of your weird is actually affecting my vocal cords, so I'm going to need you to scoot.
But I'm also very honest. Like if you don't want someone that's just going to unload all of their baggage with you on their podcast, don't listen. I hate when someone is successful at something and they're like, I never dreamed I would do this. I'd never planned to do this. Because I know there are people who would love to be writing novels, writing romance novels and succeeding at it and getting lots of sales and making 6 figures in a year from their novels, and having like rabid fans who are messaging me all the time. Like, when's the next book coming out? Asking me specific questions about different characters. Like I am living the writer's dream, but this wasn't my dream. Writing wasn't my dream. I saw a really interesting video about this, so I'm just going to put the clip in.
This guy's name is Mike Donehey, Donehey.
If I believe that being a musician is God's will for my life, what happens if I get in a car accident and I break my throat? I can't sing. Have I missed God's will for my life now? That question has already been answered in Scripture. Be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances. This is God's will for your life. Really
insightful point. And then I also heard from my friend Jennifer Allwood, who has a business podcast. She's more entrepreneurship focused, online business, and she's been a friend and a mentor to me. And I was listening to her one day, and she was talking about her mentor had told her that they saw it like a sandbox. Like God gives us a sandbox. That sandbox is to, lift him up, be obedient, do what God wants you to do in a big picture way. Obviously kingdom work, we're being obedient to the things that are in the word. But as far as like our vocation and what we decide to do, as long as we're in the sandbox, he doesn't really care what we're doing in there. Like what we do in that sandbox doesn't really, he just is letting us do whatever we want. And I thought that was a really interesting way to think about it too. And then I heard a quote from Elizabeth Elliot, and she, if you don't know who she is, she was a missionary to the tribes back in the 70s, I want to say. And the tribe that they were missionaries to killed her husband, and she stayed to continue ministering with her daughter. In the 90s, she did tons of women's conferences. She's written many books, but she talks a lot about contentment and motherhood. And her quote was, I think you should pose it as a question, but do you think God cares more about the way we do our career? I'm paraphrasing. Do you think God cares more about the way we go and speak on a stage versus how much he cares about our attitude and our heart when we scrub the bathtub? That's good. That's good. Elizabeth Elliot will pick you up and slap you around first thing in the morning. God cares about our heart. Like it's so much more important who we're becoming and who we are than what we do. But we are humans. He designed us with these desires and passions, and we are meant to work. Work is good for us. We fill our days either with housework or child raising or part-time work or full-time work, or maybe you have a business. After thinking through all of that, is it my parents' fault that I missed what I was supposed to do? Was I really supposed to do that? When I realized like, hey, I am uniquely built for this one thing, should I have dropped everything and started like adult dance classes, like trying to catch up, trying to get back to what I think I was designed to do? It doesn't matter. I am not going to spend any more time looking back and wondering about that. I mean, I do some days. There are days where I can't listen to some musical theater songs. There are days where I can't watch things on the internet where I feel like, oh, that could have been me. Or I'm so triggered of like, oh man, I wish we still lived in LA. I was auditioning out there for musicals. Being out there felt a lot closer. Then there are other days where I am totally fulfilled in what I'm currently doing and it doesn't bother me at all. So you may want to be sort of cognizant of that as you're going through your day, because we obviously can't go backwards, okay? We can't go back to our childhood and set ourselves up for success with the way we think we're wired now that we have so much more wisdom, right? Now that we have learned all these things and lived so much life, which, side note, I'm a recovering alcoholic and I'm an addict and I have an addictive personality. And one time when I met with a friend who did go to New York and she did pursue Broadway, she told me that one of the things that you don't really know until you get there is that it's kind of a big, I want to say drug culture, but I mean like everybody like takes uppers before the shows, then they take downers after a show, take whatever pills or smoke whatever or do whatever you need to do for the ups and downs of your career. And also, it's a very grueling, depressing, rejection-filled career. So there's a lot of medicating with that too. And honestly, maybe the Lord was just protecting me when I fell in love with my husband at 16 years old. And then I was so focused on him, there's no way I was going to move away and pursue a career on stage because I just wanted to stay with him and marry him. And maybe that was God's way of saving me, because I probably would have gone out there and overdosed and died. I mean, that is a real reality, because I didn't know when I was young how addictive my personality is and that I would have those issues with the chemicals in my brain. I didn't know that. I know that now. Looking at my notes now, because I feel like I'm a little bit scattered. And honestly, it's probably because this is still painful for me. This is still hard for me to think through and talk about. Because even with the YouTube talk show and the success of my books, and now I finally get to go on a little book tour to sort of test it out, and getting to do stand-up comedy for huge crowds, thousands of people, all of this stuff that, is great and I'm proud of it. But if I sat down with 10-year-old me, she would just look at me and she'd be like, we're not singing? You messed up? You screwed it up? And then she would throat punch me. And then we'd both cry. And then I would try to explain what happened in life. I don't want to say it's never too late, because there are some places where it's too late. If you were going to be that boss babe in a certain industry and you've had to take years off for whatever reason, going back into that industry, it's completely changed. You're up against, 25-year-olds who are crushing it and who know all the stuff that you don't know anymore. I mean, this is part of like midlife crises. It's just facing like, this is not going to happen for me. But what pieces can we pull from it? So obviously me being hilarious here on this podcast every week is a part of me piecing myself back together. Okay. I am so jealous, which this is a great exercise. Who are you jealous of? Because that will reveal what you really want in your own life. And I am very jealous of Elise Myers, who happened to go viral for her storytelling. And now she can sing all the time, a cappella, track stacking, which is something I love to do. She, sits and plays instruments. She does songwriting and poetry and all this stuff. And she went viral at a time, she kind of hit the lottery, and she's a great storyteller, and I am not negating how hard she works or the way she learned TikTok and mastered that skill and is great at it. But she also got lucky, and I think she would say that too, in the time of where she hit on TikTok. I couldn't go do that now on TikTok. I'm super jealous of her. I'm super jealous of Trey Kennedy, who is a online comedian who does, sketch comedy and posting funny videos. But when you go see him live, he sings on stage and he sings funny parody songs.
This is a song I wrote about someone who they join one of these MLMs.
And I am realizing now that that's probably the peak of what I can do. Like if I test this tour idea and we go out and it is fun and people are loving the stand-up comedy followed by like some Q&A and book signing, if I grow this and you're telling your friends, right? Everybody's sharing this with your friends and you're sending this to people and we grow to like 500,000 and I can go out on a real life tour, like with a tour bus, which would actually have to be an RV because I would bring my gaggle of children with me. If that happens, maybe I could come out and sing, like in the middle of like maybe I could have one song, like one big number that is kind of a surprise, and it's, it fits with whatever comedy I'm talking about at the time. It goes with the stand-up comedy. It would probably have to, have something to do with romance or love or be a funny parody about marriage. Like that is probably the best I'm going to do. Okay. Pulling back even more, I know I'm an encourager, and part of being an encourager and just entertaining and encouraging and inspiring is doing a podcast where I am talking about encouraging things. Like maybe you are a researcher, maybe you're a learner, maybe you were meant to sit and write books and you have zero time for that right now. Well, you can be researching, gathering files. You can be, starting to write outlines on your phone when you're sitting in car line or when you're nursing. What are some of the pieces that you can put in place now? If you are meant to be a fine artist, like a sculptor or a painter, and you see other people doing that and that's what you were meant to do, you can absolutely, keep your sketches going, little tiny sketchbooks, but there's so much opportunity later in life for those types of careers. Anybody can pick up a paintbrush. Now, will it take you a while to figure out social media at the time? Because it will have changed by then. And, master how to go viral and how to make sales and how to build a career online. Not that you have to. A friend of mine, her mom, she started painting in retirement, and she does old school, like tries to get her paintings in galleries. And she doesn't do social media at all. And she enjoys that. Now, is she making a living from it? I don't know. But she's getting to pursue her passions later on in life. So I feel like we have to look at how we're wired, look at how we feel like God made us, look at the opportunity we missed. If we feel like we missed our calling, which most I feel like adults do, then what can we pick and choose from that? Even if it's like I was supposed to be a concert pianist and now I, just barely play piano for myself. Well, there are community bands. There are community orchestras. There is something nearby in the nearest metro area where you can just go do it for fun. You can, go, there are opportunities where you could at least scratch the itch and fulfill some of those things that are missing. So point number 1, like we've talked about in the last few episodes, feel your feelings, maybe have a snack and a nap. Realize like, this is why I'm feeling depressed. This is why I'm feeling discontent, because my life didn't turn out the way I wanted. Like maybe just say it out loud to yourself. Like just admit this is what's bothering me, is that my life didn't turn out the way I wanted, which is a normal thing that everybody goes through. And I finally figured out what I want to say for point number 2, which is really important. But before I get to that, I have to remind you that the Happy Tears podcast is brought to you by my books. Please buy them. If you're not sure if you like my writing style, Things I Always Wanted, the teal book behind me, you can get that for free on my website. You can read the whole thing right now on your phone. If you love Christmas, you're going to want this bad boy. This is the special edition hardcover. It is only available while the tour is happening, and you can only get it signed if you come to a tour date.
The Happiest Book Tour is part stand-up comedy, part signing, swag, selfies, Q&A. It's going to be so much fun. The book launch party is in Charlotte, North Carolina, September 25th. Then October 9th, you can find me in San Diego. October 13th, Brooklyn, New York. October 22nd, Tulsa. October 28th, Chicago. November 13th, Dallas, Fort Worth. And November 20th, Oklahoma City. Go to kelseyhumphreys.com/book tour.
Please tell your friends in those cities, like, hey, you got to go see this girl. She's so funny. She's got a great book out. You'll want to get anybody who loves Christmas books, people who love Hallmark movies, who like watch every single Hallmark Christmas movie. They need this book.
Christmas is all around me.
Happy Christmas, September 30th. That comes out on tour through November. I also want to mention that the tour is sponsored by Spry. I can't emphasize enough how much I am happy to be on semi-glutides, how much it has changed my life, changed my self-confidence, empowered me to get back on camera, to go on tour, to travel, to be out there doing all the things. I'm not worried about what I'm wearing. I'm not obsessing about my muffin top. And I do want to say that there are lots of semi-glutide providers online that are sketchy. What I love about Spry is that it's a brother and sister team. I know the sister. I know the owner of the company. I text a real live nurse every week. I talk to a human being. I am on a low maintenance dose now. And if you want to hear about like my experience, my side effects, all those things, and you can get $100 off if you decide to call them and talk to a nurse today, go to kelseyhumphreys.com/spry, because I know you have FOMO about Ozempic, and honestly, everyone and their dog is on it. So why not you? So point number 2 is that I need to emphasize what we just talked about, piecing, bits of what you wanted to do back together, finding pieces of yourself and figuring out how to start over, how to start sketching, how to start writing a little bit every day, how to volunteer for a nonprofit, or maybe, start doing some part-time side hustle work in the industry that you want to go in. All of these kinds of things. Or maybe you are saving up because you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like you wanted to be at home with your kids and you're not. Like maybe you start today figuring out pieces of the puzzle that get you to stay home, what you want to do in order to make that happen. As you're working on all of these things, I need you to hear that it will be worth it later. Because we have this whole obsession with youth in our society, and I'm bad. I'm just as bad. Like, I don't like that I'm 40. I feel old. I don't like it. I'm all about the Botox and the skin treatments and whatever, I can do to be young and fabulous as long as possible. Okay. I'm part of the problem. But with that, we have this mentality that it won't be worth it if we get it later. Ask Leanne Morgan if it's worth it. She, now has her own sitcom. She has 2 Netflix specials out. She is 59 years old. And when I talked to her in person, she was saying she was so grateful that it turned out that way. Like, yes, she had imagined herself as a movie star in her 20s, but what happened was she got to raise her kids and be present with her kids. And then now that she's a grandparent and her kids are off and thriving, she is living her dream, doing arena comedy. Like, she is filling stadiums as a stand-up comedian, a woman stand-up comedian, a clean stand-up comedian who is almost 60 years old. And so Gary Vee talks about this a lot, and there's a lot more people who are sort of coming around about this idea, but we have to get it in our heads that even if it happens later, it'll still be worth it. Even if I am full on 65 by the time I get to do my tours with, like I talked about, like Trey Kennedy, if I get to finally sing a little bit and I do stand-up comedy and we're in theaters together and then we have the book signing and all of those things, if I'm 60, it'll still be worth it. It will still be amazing. It will still be so fun. And it is worth noting that within all of that, we also need to remind ourselves that what God has right in front of you, that He is asking you to do right now, is not a distraction from your most important work. It is the most important work because He is asking you to do it right now. Get out your hankies.
Ain't that the truth?
The year that we homeschooled, I reminded myself, like, this is not me taking a year off from what's important. This is me doing what's important for a year. This is me doing what is the most important, and the work that I get to do later, I get to do it later or after, if it was going to be more than a year. I didn't know. I didn't know how long it was going to be. If it's raising your babies, if it's caring for your parents, if it's hunkering down and just paying off debt, whatever it is that this is what's in front of you to do right now, that is the most important work. It's not a distraction from this big life's calling and life's mission and life's dream. That is so good. Like, let's put that on a t-shirt. Last point number 3, I like to tie things up with a bow. And the last thing is give yourself permission to dream something new. Whether or not you take all the pieces like we talked about and try to start cobbling back together the old dream, give yourself permission to totally pivot and do something completely different that still suits your personality and it's not what you thought, but it could be the most fulfilling thing. Like, we're not just talking about success on this show, right? We're not just talking about crushing it and like being your best self. We're talking about also fulfillment, like actually loving each day, loving your life, waking up energized and grateful. And part of that is maybe you scrap the whole shebang, girl. Maybe you scrap the whole shebang. Give yourself permission to dream something new. Because right now, while you're in the trenches, you have to have hope for a future. The Bible says, without hope, the people perish. Give yourself something on the horizon. Maybe you need to hear it's okay to dream about what you're going to do when the kids are a little bit older. Like, even if you're planning on homeschooling, eventually when they get to high school age, middle school, high school age, the kids are self-sufficient. Praise the Lord. They are wiping their own butts, making their own food, putting themselves to bed, waking themselves up in the morning, driving themselves around. That happens. That is coming for us. Set your sights on things in the future. That is coming for us. It's okay to think about what you might want to do, what dream you might want to have, what you might want to build when that happens. Or if right now you're stuck in a job you hate or stuck in a circumstance that you didn't ask for. If it is okay to dream a new dream again. And it is, I think, important to do so. I think it's important to have something out on the horizon to look forward to. Again, not that what you're doing right in front of you isn't the most important thing, but sometimes the most important thing is draining and it is grueling and it is difficult. Rewarding, sure, but exhausting, right? And again, maybe not what you had planned, maybe not what you saw happening for your life. And so allow yourself to envision a new version of your life that is out in the future and hope for that and work towards that. Because without it, you will slip into the Great Depression. And this can be just a small thing of like, you maybe put a picture up, by your family calendar or on your mirror or whatever of a grown family and they're going to Disney World. Okay, that's a weird example, but like maybe right now you can't travel. You're just drowning in infants and like everything seems like you will never be out from under what's very hard when you're not sleeping and they're not nursing and, it's just diaper after diaper after diaper. And maybe your husband works out of the home and you're doing it all by yourself. Or if you have a toddler and a baby, or you're whatever you feel, if you feel sort of stuck in the circumstance that you're in, think about this will not be forever. And what does it look like afterwards? And maybe post a visual somewhere for yourself to keep your eye on the prize that this is not forever. I'm working towards something. I'm building towards something. Or maybe you're not working towards it and building towards it, but you will eventually. Eventually you will get to that point where you are building and working on something. I think God designed us to work, even if working in the home. Hello, being at home is a full-time job and building your home the way you want it. If you want to be a homesteader, more power to you, you and your goats and your chickens and all the poop. It just seems like a lot of feces. You know what I mean? Just like poop everywhere. But if that's what you want to be working on, I think we are made to be working on something, working towards something, building something. I think that's part of how God designed us as humans. So if you are stuck, give yourself permission to create a new dream, build a new dream, and start going after it. Or at least give yourself a visual reminder that I'm going to go after this as soon as I can, as soon as there's some margin and some free time. Okay, I think that is it for this episode. Next week, I want to talk about something important, especially I'm leaning into like busy moms, working moms, midlife moms, because I have done some deep diving on the YouTubes and the podcasts, and I have found a problem that I know how to solve. And it's also the reason why we all feel like we're behind and failing all the time. Don't you want to know the answer? I have it. So please come back next week. And please remember, if you see me at a book signing or out in the wild and some musical theater song comes on and I start singing along and also weeping, just remember those are happy tears.